Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. And a scribe came up and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Another of the disciples said to him, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." And Jesus said to him, "Follow me, and leave the dead to bury their own dead."
There really are only two ways that people who say they follow Christ follow him. One way is to keep Jesus in your pocket. And I got Jesus right here, and he's right here, tucked away. He's close to me. He's near me all the time. I have him right here. And I have him so close that I can pull him out whenever I need him. Whenever things are not going the way I want, or the way that, life's not what it should be. And he's right there. And I can just use him whenever he wants. And when he's done, he has a nice place to go home to. He just goes right back in my pocket. And he's right there again. We'll call that version Pocket Jesus. But then there's the way the Bible describes it. And it seems outrageous. Hang on a second. I like putting this thing up here like this. Talk amongst yourselves. You'll never get tired of that. Then there's the way the Bible says about it. And it seems outrageous. It's very counterintuitive to what we, as people born with original sin and all these things, would do. It's outrageous. And it's the reason why so many people invent their own version of Jesus. It's why we have Pocket Jesus. Because this way is way too outrageous. So what is the way? It's the way of making all of your desires, your wants, your needs, your pursuits to be secondary to his desires and his wants and his needs. He doesn't have any needs, but what he wants from us and what he wants us to pursue. It's all secondary to that. It's what he tells us in Mark 8, and calling the crowd to him with his disciples, he said to them, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." So you can have Jesus orbiting in your sphere. You can have him in your pocket and say you believe in him and say that you follow him and pull him out when things get rough, but that's not really following Jesus. Or you can radically deny yourself and let him take up preeminence. So what I want to look at today is these two things, and I want to apply it practically. They're two sides of the same coin. The denying of yourself is at the same time turning and glorifying God and enjoying him forever, or glorifying him by enjoying forever. It's a turning away of ourselves, trying to enjoy life on our own terms, and turning to him and enjoying him for who he is. These are the two sides, okay? So I want us to look at three things this morning from this passage. The impossibility of costly discipleship. Number two, the practical implications. And number three, how to get there. So the impossibility of costly discipleship, the practical implications, and then how to get there. So number one, the impossibility of costly discipleship. Jesus' call is radical. So surrounding Jesus, there are crowds. And in that crowd were his close disciples, the 12. Was this something I said, Jim? I know he hates that. He can handle that. I can say that to him. Let us know how it goes. Never mind. Folks, you have no idea how many things pop in my head during sermons. And I fight to push them out, but sometimes it's like Tourette's, and I have Tourette's, by the way, all this. And sometimes I'm so sorry. Let's get back to this. Surrounding Jesus, his 12 disciples are there, right? And then there's a whole group of other committed disciples. There's many ladies and men that are walking with him. And we know of some of them. Jesus cast out demons from Mary Magdalene, for instance. There were many other ladies that were there and many other disciples that were there. And then there were many that had brought their friends to have demons cast out and to be healed because they'd heard that Jesus had done that. And then there would have been a great deal of people there just to find out what the hubbub is all about. And those are the ones that are intrigued by the spectacle. And they've heard of Jesus. They want to see him do some of these miracles. So there's just a huge crowd with all kinds of different levels of commitments to Jesus. But in this passage, we have two people that approach Jesus. And let's just look at them very briefly. So the first one is a scribe. Now, how unusual would it have been for a scribe? The scribe tells Jesus that he wants to follow him. Verse 19, and a scribe came up and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." So the scribes were actually the educated class in Israel who studied the scriptures and served as copyists and editors and teachers of the scriptures, of the law. By the time of Jesus, the scribes were actually upper class people. Most or many of the priests served as scribes, and many of the Sadducees, the priests were Sadducees, and they were in cahoots with the government. They got kickbacks. They were wealthy. So the scribes were wealthy. Many of the scribes, though, didn't come from the upper echelon. Many just came from lowly places. There were merchants, carpenters, flax combers, whatever that is, and tent makers, and even day laborers, people that wanted to study the scriptures. And so they would become a scribe. They had to go through a number of years of study to be able to become a scribe. So it's remarkable that any scribe would address Jesus respectfully, let alone tell Jesus that he wanted to follow him. Since Jesus was the one that was actually opposed to that narrow legalism that the scribes, that their religion emphasized. They were legalists with the scriptures. And here we have a scribe who wants to follow Jesus. Maybe he was so overwhelmed with Jesus' message, or maybe Jesus spoke as one who had authority, and maybe they were overwhelmed by his person because he was so amazing when he talked. It may have been a decision in the moment. Don't know. But Jesus wants him to know what is involved in all of this. Verse 20, and Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Now, we could go into a long diatribe on what the Son of Man is and that title for Jesus. We're not going to do that today. That's one reason you should get Logos, because you can enter in there. What is Son of Man? Where does Son of Man come from? There it is. You can read about it. But, so what is he saying to the man? Don't count on continuing your elevated status or lifestyle if you follow me. Don't count on it. In the words of Knox Chamberlain, his great commentary on Mathew, he says this. This is his interpretation of the verse. If you cast your lot with me and mine, you join the ranks of the dispossessed, and you must be prepared to serve God under these conditions. This man has it cushy. He's wealthy. He's respected. He teaches, and Jesus is saying, you're probably going to have to give all of that up. Is this what you really want? Your status, your money, your comfort, your position, your education are irrelevant in the kingdom of God. They're irrelevant. Then we have the second man in verse 21. It says, another of the disciples said to him, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." And Jesus said to him, "Follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead." Now, what does that actually mean? Many of the commentaries, including Chamberlain and a number of others, say this: if the father had just died, the son wouldn't be there. He would be at home burying his father. And then he says, if his father were dying, you would expect for the man to ask Jesus to come and heal him, right? So, like Jesus had done with Peter's mother-in-law. So what these guys conclude is that the man wants to postpone his duty to Jesus until the father dies, which might be many years. In other words, yes, he sees that following Jesus is a good thing to do, but right now I got other stuff to do. Right now I can't do it. We'll get around to it eventually. And he wants to follow Jesus, but he wants to find a loophole for it. Yeah, I'm his follower, and as soon as these things happen, I'm all in. I'm going for that. He can sign up now and cash in later. This is actually what he's asking for. But do we understand what the cost of discipleship actually is? It's putting everything at Jesus' disposal: money, family, status, work, talents, comfort. Everything. So we're doing a leadership training thing on Monday mornings with a few guys, and we were talking about priorities, and I told Yanni I was going to quote him, and we started joking about what I might say, quoting him. He said, "What did I say?" But he came up with this, and it was really good. I think I'm going to get you right here. He put it this way. God, he may not have said this exactly, but God is not our first priority. He is the priority by which we evaluate every other priority. That's deep. He's not our priority. He's the priority by which we evaluate every other priority. That makes him supreme. That in all things, Christ might be preeminent, as it says in the book of Colossians. It's so true. This is what death to ourselves looks like. It's a conscious submitting my will to his will. How are we doing with that? You know how impossible that is? How difficult that is? So let's look at it practically. Just some of the practical implications of it. And I've come up with 3 practical implications. Let's look at marriage. Or as they said to me in the coffee room, marriage. All right, let's not go down that road. For most people, marriage is being with someone that makes you happy. This is what you get out there. After all, isn't it the reason you were attracted to them in the first place? It may have been their good looks or their attractive personality or their humor or any number of other things that brought you joy, gave you that little butterfly thing in your heart, and you're like, woo, every time you saw them and all those things. And these were beautiful to you. And so you proposed and you got married. But then you're living life together for a while, and the beauty begins to fade because you begin to see the cracks and the faults in your spouse. You can't help it. You don't really know anybody till you live with them. And then you live with them and you see them for who they are. And those things aren't pretty. The disagreements come, the different way that you view the world from them. You begin to desire something different. If only your spouse could be different, then your life would be good. If only your spouse would accept you just the way you are, then life would be good. They would be, if only your spouse could go back to being the person they were when you were dating, oh man, then life would be good. Couldn't they just do that? So for many, the solution to these problems is divorce. You're not making me happy anymore, and I'm done with it. For others, there's this détente, you know that from the Cold War. It's a mutual existence, mistrust, but you coexist and you just go down this road together. And then there are others who actually work on, they face the difficulties and they work on their differences. But now let's put costly discipleship in the mix, okay? Costly discipleship. What does it look like to put Jesus as the paradigm through which we look at our marriages? So the primary purpose of marriage is not to be happy. Believe it or not, that's not God's goal in your life, though it is a byproduct often. It's not to be happy. The primary purpose of marriage, and everything else for that matter, is to glorify God by enjoying Him forever. And when this becomes the goal, now you don't have to change your spouse anymore. Why not? You don't have to put pressure on them to make you happy because you realize that your joy doesn't come from them. They're not the ones that can produce joy in your life. They never were. They were never given that capability. It was never a possibility in the first place. Only Jesus can bring you joy. And when we realize that and we turn to Him, we glorify Him and enjoy Him, when we seek to enjoy Him, suddenly the pressure's off. I don't need my spouse to be anything. They're not my source of joy. You see how this works? And when both people in the marriage do this, then love grows. Because you can't love God without loving your spouse, no matter the cracks in the armor. You can't do it, and others also. And the only way you can truly love and enjoy God is by spending time with Him. And the more time you spend with Him, the more you begin to die to yourself, because you realize that His way is the only way of flourishing. The more you flourish with God, the more you will love your spouse. They go hand in hand. How are we doing so far? We got that one down, right? I've got that one down. And my wife will be giving a clinic afterwards about how well I do that, okay, in the coffee room right afterwards. Let's talk about another one, raising children. Uh-oh, now I'm starting to meddle. For most people, children are about the most important things. And now Joey's leaving. Sorry, Joey. I had a word for you. That's bad. I shouldn't embarrass people like that. That's bad. He doesn't care. He doesn't care, probably. For a lot of people, children are the most important things in their lives. They do everything in their power to give their kids great experiences, great educations, a great future, so that their kids can experience great success. This is what we want for our kids, success, whatever that means. So if you ask me about my kids, I'm going to brag on them unashamedly. I'm going to tell you how great they are, how successful they are, how really smart they are. How many times have I heard somebody say to me, oh yeah, my kid, they're crazy smart. Well, not everybody can be smart, but they're crazy smart. And you have no idea how they're advancing beyond their peers. They're amazing. My kids are amazing. And we're very, very tied in to our kids. And so what happens with that? This is very important to us, that our kids do well, that they be successful. And so what happens? We begin to push our kids. We push them to be successful. But that success is often defined either by our own insecurities or our own deficiencies, or it's defined by what the culture is telling us. Educational success, athletic success. This one is huge. Athletic success, career success. And we begin to push them. Oh, they're not doing well in school. We better get after them. They better do well or they're not going to be successful. These are the things we do. And I wonder what message our kids are getting. But what does costly discipleship say? It says, first of all, that our kids belong to Jesus. It tells them that if they want real joy in life, it will only be found in glorifying God and enjoying Him forever. It doesn't matter if they dig ditches or become an astronaut. What they do in their career, listen to me, what they do in their career is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Take the pressure off yourself. The only question is, what has Jesus called them to for the sake of advancing His kingdom? That's the only relevant question for any of our kids. What has Jesus called you to expand His kingdom? It's about reorienting desires about what is beautiful and what is good in the world. Dying to self and turning to Jesus is the ultimate good in life, and the only way we show them this is by modeling it ourselves. How are we doing with that? I'm done raising my kids. I don't think I did so hot. I think my wife was way better. She was more focused on that. I was more focused on success. How you doing with that? I think that's a kingdom priority. One more, and now I'm really going to meddle. Money. Let's just talk about money for a minute. For most people, money is power. Power to live the good life. Power to have comfort. Power to not work so hard. To have that bigger house or that nice car or that vacation place. And also, money is status. It is one of the main things that people admire and desire. Most people want to be around wealthy people. They either want to be wealthy or they love the way that they live when they're with wealthy people. Money is a strong drug that drives us into ourselves. So what does costly discipleship say about money? Well, it says that we're not our own. We've been bought with a price, which means that our money belongs to Jesus. We are simply the managers. Our money is about the furtherance of the kingdom of God and how we can glorify Him and enjoy Him forever. In some cases, Jesus asked people to give up their money, like the rich young ruler. He said, abandon all, sell everything you have and give it to the poor, and then follow me. This man had his sights on his money. It was too important to him. See, sometimes your money is an impediment to truly loving and enjoying Him. But in other cases, Jesus actually calls people to make a lot of money so that you can use it and be radically generous for the causes that advance the kingdom. You can't make your own decision on this. What is He calling you to? See, that's the priority. That's the Jesus paradigm that's over your money. What is He actually calling to you to do? You don't get a vote about your money. You have right now as much money as He wants you to have. And He wants you to grow. He wants to grow your faith so that you will be a radical lover of God and a radical giver. So you will say that everything you have is His. He owns your house. He owns your car. He owns your bank account. And if this is true, how does that change your priorities? We can keep going with category after category after category. What does it look like for Jesus' paradigm to be over that category? What does it look like to be a follower of Jesus? It's radical. It's impossible. It's death to ourselves. It is following no matter the cost. It is giving everything we are and everything we have over to Jesus for his use, for his glory, for our enjoyment of him, for his kingdom, for the things that he's doing in the world, which are glorious things, to have our minds reoriented to that kingdom. This is what he's calling us to. And we struggle with it. We really struggle with it. We live in a society that's very, very, very hard to do this because everything is usually pretty easy. We live like kings. So the question is, how do we get there? And third point, I want to propose something here. I don't think it's about what you do or what you don't do. We could make up a long list of items of how to live your life, but I don't think that's the road we want to go down. What I want to propose is not a list of rules, but something much deeper that goes to the depths of our desires. And here's the question: what is beautiful to you? What is beautiful to you? Author Cathy O'Neill's book, The Shame Machine, delves into numerous ways that corporations and governments and much of the media have weaponized and turned into big business the shaming of individuals or groups. And one example is the Kardashian empire. This is what she says. Kim Kardashian's body is central to both her brand and her commercial empire. Her very profitable company sells makeup, lipstick, and other cosmetics. But by early 2020, Kardashian's fortune was creeping toward billionaire status, and in April 2021, it was achieved. One branch of her branded enterprise involves pitching shelves of products designed to help lesser mortals achieve the perfection of the Kardashian body. For a single Instagram post, she rakes in an estimated $500,000. She pops up on millions of feeds promoting appetite-suppressing lollipops, a 14-day detox program, and many more offerings. She sells fantasy, and the marketing is based on shame. Having anything less than a dream body is a choice. If you don't like what you were born with, you can fix it. It's up to you. This is a powerful message, especially for young women. Their anxiety regarding these issues is unrelenting, and it begins early. These fears fuel endless business for sex goddesses like Kim Kardashian. To inch closer to their ideal, millions of women strive, worry, work out, diet, buy all kinds of branded garbage, and yet never achieve their goal of looking like her. Many of them feel like wrecks. Beauty has long been the perfect scam, an inexhaustible shame machine. Everybody holds things as beautiful, have things in their lives that they hold as beautiful and that they desire deeply. See, that's the issue. What is it that we find beautiful? And that's what's going to drive all of our actions. We are going to move after those things. We're going to pursue them because they're beautiful and we want them. For many men, it's their job and how they are advancing. Their self-worth is tied to it. For many women, it's family, children, or their looks, and their self-worth is tied to these things. And our culture tells us that looks and money and power are beautiful. These are the things that you want to go after. Suffering is very ugly, and it is to be avoided at all costs. But then we get to radical discipleship, and it completely redefines what is beautiful. Completely redefines what is beautiful. From a CBS report comes this story about two French painters, Renoir and Matisse. It says, when French Impressionist painter Auguste Renoir was confined to his home during the last decade of his life, Henri Matisse was nearly 28 years younger than he. The two great artists were dear friends and frequent companions. Matisse visited him daily. Renoir, almost paralyzed by arthritis, continued to paint in spite of his infirmities. He had to hold his brush between his thumb and his index finger. As he painted, students often heard him crying out in pain. And one day, as Matisse watched the elder painter work in his studio, fighting torturous pain with each brush stroke, he blurted out, "Auguste, why do you continue to paint when you are in such agony?" And Renoir said, "The pain passes, but the beauty remains." Brothers and sisters, the ultimate sign of beauty is the cross, with its scorn and its shame, where Jesus laid down his life for us. That certainly redefines what beauty actually is. Now, if that's the standard of beauty, then it changes everything about how we live right here and right now. It changes how we view our marriages and how we view our parenting and how we view our money and everything else in our lives. So just to end, there are two parables further on in Matthew that we probably won't get to, but further on in Matthew 13, and it says this in verse 44, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy he goes and he sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who, on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it." So these are two stories. They're the same thing. They're the same concept. So in the first one, he equates the kingdom of God with a treasure hidden in a field, and he covers it up. The man covers it up. He finds it there. He goes up and he sells everything. He gives up everything to buy that field. Why? Because he wants that treasure. He wants the treasure. And in the second story, the merchant who finds a pearl does exactly the same thing. He gives up everything because he found a pearl that is absolutely beautiful, and all he wants to do is to have that pearl. Brothers and sisters, do you realize what he is saying? It's actually two things that he's saying. You could take these parables in one of two ways, and we're going to take them both ways. Consider Jesus. When he saw us, metaphorically speaking, when he saw us, he saw a pearl. He saw a treasure. And what did he do? He gave up everything for us, even enduring the wrath of his Father against our sin and going to hell on our behalf. He gave up everything so that he could gain us, the pearl, the treasure. Do you believe that describes you? That you're his treasure and his pearl? I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that. And the more we spend time with him, the more we come to the conclusion, and the more we become overwhelmed because of what he did for us, but more importantly, how much he values us. I think we all struggle to know that. How much he values us with all of our warts, with all of our waywardness. He values us. It's time to reorient our view of beauty. And so then if we take this analogy all the way to its end, what does it actually mean for us? What then is our beauty? Well, our treasure and our pearl is Jesus, the one who gave everything for us. And so if he is the most beautiful thing for us, we will be willing to give up everything for his sake. See, if he is the ultimate beauty for us, if he's the pearl, if he's the treasure in the field, we will go and sell everything and we will go after him because he is the thing. He is the thing that overwhelms our soul. Brothers and sisters, we don't have a behavior problem. We have a beauty problem. We haven't seen Jesus for who he is. And maybe we don't spend enough time with him. How can we change this? Thomas Chalmers, the Scottish Presbyterian from the 19th century, said this: the only way to dispossess the heart of an old affection is by the expulsive power of a new one. Are you pursuing your work because you think it's going to give you beauty? It's not. It's time to spend time in your closet with Jesus. Spend time with him. Let him waft over you. Have his word in front of you. Read and ask him. Search for him in the scriptures and ask him to come. But this is true. This is costly. This is not an instant quick fix. This doesn't happen today. It's like what Eugene Peterson says. It's a long obedience in the same direction. You spend time with him. See, it's in basking and meditating and spending time and pondering the awful beauty of the cross of Christ that he begins to crystallize and he begins to become clear. And we begin to sense his presence and the joy that overwhelms. It's actually true. Brothers and sisters, there's nothing more beautiful than Jesus. That's the gospel, and it changes everything. Let's pray.